Imagine a man standing at the altar, eyes glistening as he gazes at the woman he claims to love more than life itself. He vows to protect her, cherish her, sacrifice anything for her. In that moment, his devotion feels pure, radiant, even, but underneath that trembling sincerity, there's something else. A whisper that even he can't hear. She completes me. What if love, in all its shimmering beauty, was never about the other person? What if it has always been, from the beginning, a veiled act of self-interest, a hunger, a longing, a possession disguised as passion? Authorship. The 19th century German philosopher, known for his brutal honesty and piercing insights into human nature, did not romanticize love. In fact, he treated it with a kind of scientific cruelty. To him, love wasn't a divine emotion or a transcendent bond between souls. It was a biological trapper strategy of nature to ensure reproduction, cloaked in illusions of tenderness and eternity. You think you're falling in love with a person. What you're really doing, Schopenhauer argued, is serving the will of life, the will to leave a blind, striving force that uses you as a puppet to preserve the species. And if that's true, then love, even in its most poetic form, is never truly about the other person. It is about fulfilling a hidden need within yourself, your desire for completeness, your fear of loneliness, your craving for validation, your urge to propagate your genes, your yearning for meaning. You give, yes, but always with the silent expectation that you will get something in return. Safety, identity, belonging, purpose. Does this mean that every I love you is secretly I need you? Does selfless love exist at all? Is that just a noble lie we tell ourselves to make our longing look holy? Even in our most generous moments, when we stay up late to listen to someone's pain, when we make sacrifices, when we say, "You, go ahead, I'll wait," are we doing it out of pure care? Or is there a small, hidden corner in us that wants to be the one who was needed, the one who was kind, the one who mattered? Love is worshipped in every culture, immortalized in every poem, painted into every great story. We are taught that love is the one thing worth living and dying for. But what if that's precisely the point? What if we mythologize love so deeply because we are trying to obscure the raw truth underneath it? That love, in its primal form, is not a gift but a transaction. Think of how we speak about heartbreak. I gave everything and got nothing. They didn't love me back. I wasn't enough. These aren't the words of someone who gave without expectation. These are the cries of someone who invested and lost. Schopenhauer would smirk at the tragedy, not because he enjoyed it, but because he saw the mechanics beneath the emotion. You were never just loving. You were hoping, bargaining, needing. He wrote, "Love is an illusion, by means of which nature carries on its business for the continuation of the species. Nature's business, not yours." And yet, despite this brutal insight, we continue to love, again and again. We say we've learned that we won't make the same mistake, but the pull returns. The ache, the want, the dream of being one with another, even if we know it might destroy us. Why? Why do we continue to chase something that may never be selfless? Why does love feel like the highest of all emotions when it might be the most cunning disguise for survival? Can we ever escape this trap? Or must we learn to live honestly within it? Is there a kind of love that doesn't need to possess, to complete, to conquer? Or is even that question a form of self-deception? These are the questions Schopenhauer forces us to confront, not with sentimentality, but with unsparing clarity. And if we're brave enough to look past the veil, we might discover something even more haunting and more liberating than the fairy tale we've always believed, because to understand love not as we wish it to be, but as it is to understand ourselves, and that's where the real story begins. Love, as we experience it, feels transcendent. It seems to transport us beyond our ego into a realm of tenderness and connection. But Schopenhauer wasn't interested in how love felt. He was interested in what love was beneath the illusion, and to him the illusion was the point. At the root of his philosophy lies the idea of the will not will as in conscious choice or intention, but as a primal, blind force of striving that governs all life. The will is not rational. It does not care about your happiness, your dreams, or your fulfillment. Its only concern is one thing: continuation of itself through you. It is what makes a plant twist toward the sun, what makes an animal fight for survival, and what makes you fall madly in love with someone who, perhaps, isn't even good for you. Schopenhauer viewed the human being as a puppet of this will, and love. Love is its most beautiful trick. You think you're choosing a partner because of shared values, common goals, or soul-level chemistry. But according to Schopenhauer, you are unconsciously selecting someone based on deeply hidden biological logic, someone who completes your genetic deficiencies, someone whose traits, even if they conflict with your personality, will create a strong offspring. You aren't in love with them. You're in love with the fantasy of producing something eternal through them. He writes, the ultimate aim of all love affairs, whether they are played in sock and buskin or in bare earnest, is really more important than all other aims in human life, and is therefore quite worthy of the profound seriousness with which everyone pursues it. And what is that aim? Reproduction, not of the conscious self, but of the species. This is the first psychological root. We do not love consciously. The feelings of love are merely the epiphenomenal, like the shimmer on a bubble that distracts you from the trap it encloses. But this illusion is not just biological. It becomes deeply psychological and spiritual to Dot. Most people do not fall in love simply to pass on genes. They fall in love to feel complete, to feel seen, to finally be enough. This is the second, more haunting layer. We project our brokenness onto love, and then beg it to save us. We look for someone who will make us feel whole, and the more unhealed we are, the more intense our need becomes. Love then becomes a form of spiritual bargaining, sacred dependency. We say, I will love you unconditionally, but what we mean is, heal me, make me matter, make me lovable. Schopenhauer would see this as a second illusion stacked on the first. Not only are we serving the will biologically, but psychologically. We are trying to escape the unbearable weight of our fragmented self. This leads to a painful contradiction. The more we believe our love is selfless, the more deeply it may be rooted in unconscious need. We don't give love freely. We give it hoping it will return us to ourselves. And when it doesn't, when the person leaves, cheats, or disappoints, we aren't just heartbroken, we're shattered. Because the illusion didn't just fall apart, it revealed the emptiness. Underneath, Schopenhauer believed this pain was inevitable, because the will can never be fully satisfied. Even in fulfilled love, suffering persists. Why? Because once the will to live achieves its goal, say, through a child or a lasting relationship, its urgency fades. The couple who once felt cosmic passion now argues over trivial things. Why? Because the biological purpose has been served, and the illusion that held it together begins to dissolve. This cycle repeats endlessly. Desire gives illusion, gives fulfillment, gives disappointment. We think it's a personal failure. But Schopenhauer says, no, this is built into the system, and yet we cannot stop. Why? Because we are trapped inside the will. We are its vehicle. The self is not sovereign, it is a mask the will wears. You cannot outrun your programming. You can only become aware of it, and that is the great philosophical pain Schopenhauer forces us to confront. We are not who we think we are, and our highest ideals, love, sacrifice, devotion, may be operating under false names. So what do we do with this? Most people either reject his view as to dark or collapse under its weight. But Schopenhauer offers a peculiar kind of freedom, because once you see the game, you are no longer bound by it in the same way. You may still fall in love. You may still feel desire, but you no longer need to lie to yourself. You can love with eyes open, and perhaps, in that awareness, you can find a kind of honest love, not the myth of selflessness, but the beauty of two beings recognizing each other's wounds and saying, I see you, I won't heal you. I can't, but I will walk with you honestly. That is not the love of fairy tales. It is the love of awakened adults. If we dare to take Schopenhauer seriously, we must then ask, what does this truth do to our relationships? What does it mean for a world that lives on the myth of romantic salvation? And more urgently, what does it mean for you to believe that love is never selfless, is to uncover a painful mirror? It forces you to question your motives, your attachments, even your heartbreaks. It suggests that what you call true love might have been a well-crafted illusion, one that served a need, or masked a wound. Take the common experience of falling in love with someone emotionally unavailable. Why do we so often feel drawn to the very people who cannot love us back? The answer, through Schopenhauer's lens, isn't mystery, it's programming. You're drawn to what activates your deepest striving, your psychological hunger, and your biological desperation. The more elusive the object, the more your unconscious feels it must attain it. Why? Because your will doesn't seek peace. It seeks movement, a new place to project longing. This explains why so many people, once they finally attain the love they chased, begin to feel strangely empty, as if the high faded, as if they mistook the struggle for the substance. Because for many, the act of pursuing love was never about connection. It was about soothing something inside that never quite believed it was worthy to begin with. Schopenhauer wasn't trying to be cruel. He was trying to show us why we suffer. He saw that human beings are not just victims of chance, but victims of their own unexamined desires. And love, above all, is where we bury the ones we don't want to admit. We say, I want to be loved, unconditionally. But what we often mean is, I want someone to fill the space where I refuse to love myself. We say, I want someone who completes me, but we're really saying, I want someone who distracts me from the parts of me I haven't healed. This is why the end of a relationship can feel like a psychic death. Because what collapses isn't just the connection. What collapses is the structure of meaning we built around it. We weren't just grieving them. We were grieving the version of ourselves we hoped they would make real. And if you've ever noticed that your heart breaks feel eerily similar despite the partner being different, it may not be coincidence. It may be that you were trying to repeat the same wound, just with a different face. That, too, is the will at work, not trying to liberate you, but to trap you in cycles, because cycles keep the will alive. This realization can be deeply unsettling, but it is also strangely liberating, because if love is not selfless, then you are finally allowed to stop pretending. You are allowed to ask yourself, what need is this relationship serving? What pain is it distracting me from? What illusion am I clinging to just to avoid facing myself? This does not mean love is meaningless, far from it. But it means that love becomes more meaningful when we strip away the fantasy, because only then do we encounter the truth of another person, not as a savior, not as a mirror, but as a fellow struggler in a vast and often lonely world. There's a strange grace in this view, a clarity when you stop believing that love must redeem you. You free yourself to love more cleanly. You begin to accept that love is not the solution to your suffering, it's the context in which your suffering is shared. And that changes everything. In this way, Schopenhauer's philosophy, bleak as it may seem, offers a rare invitation to grow up, to stop expecting romantic love to save you, to stop using others as a bandage for your inner wounds, to stop dressing need in the costume of devotion, because the truth is, most of what we call love is disguised self. But that doesn't make it evil. It makes it human. And the more honest you become about this, the more likely you are to form relationships based on truth, not projection. Imagine a love that begins not with a promise, but with a confession. I am not whole. I am afraid. I have wounds I don't yet understand. I may try to make you responsible for them, but I don't want to. I want to learn how to be with you, not to complete me, but to walk beside me as I become more complete myself. That is not romantic in the Hollywood sense, but it is real, and in its rawness, it is far more beautiful, because it is no longer about performance, it is about presence. Schopenhauer's view may strip away the illusions, but in doing so, it invites something deeper than illusion could ever offer: intimacy. Without possession, care without control, and connection without disguise. To love in this way is not to reject desire, but to see through it. To look your own needs in the eye and say, I see you, I honor you, but I will not let you deceive me. That, perhaps, is the most selfless kind of love there is. Not one that pretends to have no needs, but one that knows exactly what it needs, behind it. So if love is never selfless, what now? Do we close ourselves off? Live as cynics, armored against affection, guarding ourselves from the vulnerability we once mistook for transcendence? That's not what Schopenhauer would ask of you. He wasn't trying to strip love of all beauty. He was trying to strip it of delusion, because in the removal of illusion, there's a clarity sharper than any romance. And in that clarity, there's something resembling true love, not as dependency, but as witness. Love not as escape, but as presence. Love not as salvation, but as acceptance of what is. The mature truth isn't that love is worthless. It's that love is messy, partial, and profoundly human. And when we accept that, we begin to love more honestly. From illusion to integrity, you stop pretending you don't need anything. You stop pretending the other person completes you. You stop turning relationships into religions, and you start showing up as you are, flawed, fragmented, unfinished, but aware. Schopenhauer's gift is not comfort. It is liberation through painful recognition. It's the recognition that you don't need to make love divine for it to matter. That you can hold desire and ego, need and selfishness, care and control all in the same breath. Because that's what we are, contradictions in motion. The goal isn't to eliminate these contradictions. It's to become conscious of them, to say, yes, part of me loves you because of what you give me. Part of me fears losing you because I fear losing myself. Part of me wants to own you, possess you, merge with you. But beneath that all of that tie, see you. I choose you, not to save me, not to fix me, but to walk beside me. That is a love, with integrity. Not perfect, but honest. Not selfless, but aware. And awareness, Schopenhauer would say, is the only real freedom we have. The sacred in the ordinary we've been taught that love must be grand to be real. It must be self-sacrificing, devoted, eternal. But maybe that's the trap. Maybe real love is found not in the vow to give everything, but in the quiet decision to stay conscious, moment by moment, breath by breath. Maybe the most loving thing you can do is to stop asking someone else to complete you on. Start completing yourself in their presence. That's not poetic, perhaps, but it's deeply human, and perhaps, in its own way, that makes it sacred. A shift in language, we often say, I gave them everything. I loved them unconditionally. I put them before myself. But if you look closely, you might find the shadow of expectation in every word. And so, what if we spoke differently? Instead of, I need you to make me feel whole, say, I want to share my wholeness with you. Instead of, I can't live without you, say, I choose to live with you. Instead of, I will sacrifice myself for your happiness, say, let us both remain ourselves and grow side by side. This shift is not semantic. It is existential. It reclaims your power. It stops pretending. It anchors love in something real, not fantasy, not illusion, but the full-bodied presence of two imperfect humans doing their best to care without ownership. What remains when the illusion dies so? What survives when the myth falls away? When you let go of the fairy tale and face the raw truth that love is never pure, never selfless, never without need. What's left is this: the quiet act of making tea for someone who had a hard day, the effort to understand them, even when it's inconvenient, the willingness to stay during hard conversations, even when part of you wants to run, the humility to admit when your love has strings attached, tanned to loosen them gently. That is not selfless love. That is conscious love. And conscious love is rarer than perfect love, because it requires you to be awake in every moment, to notice your ego flaring up and breathe, to feel your fear of abandonment stay anyway, to see your desire to control and let it soften. The courage to love imperfectly love is not a state of grace. It is a practice, a daily, vulnerable, often fumbling attempt to reach across the chasm of your own mind and touch another soul. And yes, there will be selfishness in it. There will be projection. There will be need. But with awareness, those things don't poison the love. They deepen it, because love, in its truest form, is not about giving up yourself. It's about bringing yourself, your whole self, to the table and letting the other do the same. The final word, not selfless, but sacred. Schopenhauer dismantled the myth of selfless love. But in doing so, he gave us something else, a chance to love with our eyes open, to stop chasing transcendence through another and start finding it in our shared vulnerability. Yes, love is never selfless. But maybe that's not the tragedy we thought it was. Maybe it's the beginning of something deeper, not the death of romance, but the birth of real relationship, not the fantasy of merging into one, but the courage to walk beside each other whole, aware and awake. In the end, that may be the only kind of love that can survive the truth, and perhaps the only kind worth calling love at all.